Well, hello everybody and welcome back to Lisa's Coloring Corner. So many of us have and love the Crayola Supertip markers, right? Well, they have so many good things about them. They have such bright, vibrant colors. They have a really neat tip where you can color broad lines, you can color skinny lines. They have a big variety of colors, and the fact that they are so widely available and very budget friendly. But they have one big drawback: no color names. Get with the program, Crayola and Sharpie. Give us some color names. Well, I may have a solution to that in this video today. I went on a hunt for color names for these markers. And guess what I found? There are color names for these markers. I found a website, and she does also have a YouTube channel. Her name is, or the website name is Jenny's Crayon Collection, and that also is the name of her YouTube channel. And I will link both of those down below in the description in case you want to check out her website or her YouTube channel. She is everything Crayola, especially crayons. Oh my gosh, you should see this girl's collection. I think she has every crayon made from the very first ones. She collects crayon everything. But she contacted Crayola directly. She got the list of all 100 color names. Yes, she did. So what I did is this is kind of the process of what I went through. This is the list of all of the 100 color names for the 100 set of the Crayola Supertips. So what I did, because they're in no order whatsoever, they're not in color group order, they're in no order whatsoever. The names of some of these colors, you have absolutely no idea really what the color itself is. So what I did know that TDM brown, of course, was in the browns. DM blue was in the blues, so I knew that much. What I did is I broke it down then into color groups. And I came up with what I thought, and again, this is just what I came up with, especially when it came to matching the color name itself to the particular marker. I'm sure I got some of these wrong, but I guess in the grand scheme of things, it really doesn't matter. As long as your color chart that you come up with has the color name, the number, and then what color the marker is that you have swatched out. When it goes to, comes to, I should say, coloring a picture, you know which marker to pick out that will correspond, will represent that particular color. So, yeah, went through the color groups, wrote down each of the ones that I thought would go into each color group until I came up with the 100 colors. Because I had to do a lot of research in regard to what some of these colors really looked like. Like Amaranth, I figured would go in the pinks, but like Cyclamen, dark Cyclamen, if that's how it's pronounced, I thought were kind of more purplish, but when I researched it and looked it up, they actually were more pinkish. Ochre, olive gold, ochre gold. I originally had in with the browns, but there were too many browns versus yellows to where, I don't know if any of that all makes sense. Anyhow, this is the list that I came up with. Then I went through, wrote them all down as I swatched and really guessed as far as what color went where. I knew I had 9 yellows to do. According to what I came up with here, I had 9 of them. I had 2 oranges, I had 6 reds, 10 pinks, 11 purples. So then I kind of drew a line here, came up with what I thought corresponded with the color name. Again, I'm sure I don't have all of these correct, and I think it's impossible to do that. So that was my first attempt. Then I did it again, put it more in the order that I wanted, kind of switched around a few things, kind of tried to make it more exact, switched, some of the color names around, swatched them out one final time to make sure that that's the order that I wanted. And I still had a few changes that I made. And finally, I'm like, okay, Lisa, call it good, call it good, call it good. Okay, so we are going to go through. So now I have my super tips in my case, exactly in this last version, if you will. And we are going to look at what I finally came up with in regard to what color is what. Again, this probably isn't exact, but I'm going to go through these real slowly with you so that if you want to get out your Crayola Supertips and kind of look and see, put yours. Again, if this is only if you want to do this, put them in the order that I have according to the color names. Now, I do have the chart made up already, typed up with all the color names and a number corresponding to each. I have not labeled mine yet, and I'm not going to go through and put a color name on each marker. I am just going to go through and number them 1 through 100 because I think that's going to be easy enough to identify each marker. If I want Prussian Blue, I know it's number 51. I think it would be easier to see the number anyhow. So I'm just going to slap a label on each one with a number. But again, I'll go slowly through each one, kind of show you what marker I am using for each color name. Okay? All right. Let's put the case to the side. Now this is the order that I have them in according to the chart. Now you're going to notice some numbers on these right now. These correspond to the Mystery Mosaic books. I labeled them, there's 36 colors in the Mystery Mosaic books. These are the ones that I matched up to the Mystery Mosaic. So I'm going to have to take these numbers off, redo that chart. Instead of, say, this one being number 31, which is what it was, now it's going to be number 2. So I'll remake out that with new numbers, take these off and relabel these. Okay, so I don't know if you want to take a screenshot or two of these so that you can kind of follow along with when I swatch each one out. So this is the first set. You can kind of see the colors and the order that I'm going. Some of these it's going to be a little hard to determine in your set, maybe which one is which. This is the rest of the pinks. Then we go through the purples, the beginning of the blues. Okay, these, again, if you want to take a screenshot, this is the next set. Finishing the blues, then we get into the greens. I'll keep my hands out in case you do want to take screenshots. Or stop, pause the video, whatever. Go through all the greens, then we go through the browns. And then finally, the grays. The very last of the grays. Again, it may be hard for you to determine according to the color caps to match mine exactly. But I think once we swatch them out, you compare your swatches to mine, you'll be able to determine which one is which. Again, only if you want to match them up to what I have. Okay, let's start out. Okay, so there is an ivory color. Let me zoom you in. According to the color list, there is an ivory. And I'm going to zoom in quite close so that you can see this really well. Process of elimination. This is the one that I came up with for ivory. There really was no ivory color that I could determine out of all 100 of these colors. Now Jenny is doing the exact same thing that I am doing, and she's going to send me her list and her colors that she came up with. It's going to be real interesting to see what she picked out versus what I picked out. I may update this video if I determine that some of her colors make more sense than mine, because I'm sure we're going to have differences. But yeah, this is what I came up with for ivory. Originally, I had this in the browns because, as you see, it is like a real light tan. Yeah, but like I said, with the number of yellows that I needed versus the number of browns, this was the only one that was left that I could determine would be ivory. So, yeah. Okay, so that's number one. I just put that right up at the top before the yellows. Okay, then let's get into the yellows. This is the lightest yellow cap. So I made this one lemon yellow. Going through these yellows, it was, oh gosh, I went back and forth. I don't know how many times to try to figure out what I should put with what color here. Yeah, it was hard. So this is the lightest yellow, lemon yellow. Looks like a lemon, right? But now yellow, yeah, that was a hard one. Went with the next darkest yellow, which looks like a regular yellow, right? But it's kind of a real golden yellow when you color with it. But it does truly look like a yellow. So that's the one that I used for yellow. Then we go to gold. And this one does have more of a, looks almost like it has a brownish greenish tint to it. Again, process of elimination. This is what I came up with. So this is what the gold looks like. Just a little bit deeper of a yellow. And again, this is the order that I came up with. When I do all my color charts, lightest to darkest, I go yellow, orange, red, pink. Then I get into my purples, blues, greens, browns or earth tones, grays, and then black. Okay, sun yellow. I took this one. Now it's very similar in cap color to this one, as you can see, but this one is a little bit more orangey in color. Okay, so this one I have as sun yellow. Now this video is going to take a little bit longer because I'm going to go through these, like I said, real slowly. So sun yellow is really orangey. Orangey? Is that a name? That's a color, right? Orangey. Okay, so then this one, yeah, this one, yellow wasn't too difficult, I guess, now that I think about it, but bright yellow. Yeah, bright yellow. I still don't know if I should make that one bright yellow and then one of these yellow, but yet these really are not yellow at all. So this is what I made bright yellow. Very similar to the sun yellow, as you can see. So yeah, it is what it is. Then we go to olive gold. This is the one that I came up with for olive gold. Again, it does have a greenish tint to it. So I'm assuming this one's pretty close. This is the color of olive gold. To me, that's the one that made sense. That one I didn't have too much of a problem with. That one just kind of seemed a little logical. Then we have ochre. That's another one I had a little bit of a difficulty with. And this is one of the darker gold caps, or yellow caps, I should say. Kind of a yellowish, orangish cap. And this is what I used for ochre. So it is kind of a dark yellow orange. Then we have ochre gold. This is the last yellow. And this is a real darkish orange cap. Almost looks on the brownish side. Kind of a yellow, orange, brown, if you will. So this I have as ochre gold. Okay, kind of goes along with the ochre. So to me, I guess, logically, it made a little bit of sense to me. Then there were two in the orange category. This one is bright orange. These I had a little bit of difficulty too because there were only two in the orange category. So to me, made sense to have bright orange and orange, right? But regular orange is really reddish orange. But I did make this lighter orange one, bright orange. Okay. And then I made this one orange. Again, if this is going at too slow of a speed for you, just speed it up, I guess. Okay, so that's the one I have as orange. Then we get into the reds. Now the beginning of these are the more red-orange ones, but we have what I made as Lobster Red. Again, these were really difficult to pick out for me, and you may have differing opinions, again, as to which ones I picked out for what. Lobster Red I picked out as a real reddish orange color. Again, just kind of because of process of elimination with the others. So again, it's a real orangish red, maybe even a little bit lighter than the orange. The next one is a darker kind of a orangish red, reddish orange. The darkest of the reddish orange markers. This one I made cherry red. I know cherry red typically is a bright red. I don't know if maybe that one should be blood red versus cherry red. You know, maybe I should mix these two around. I don't know. And then we have red. So out of all the colors, red, you know, blue, green, I tried my hardest to pick the standard pure color of each of these colors. This to me was the closest to a true red. So that's the one that I picked for red. Then we have blood red, and it's a little bit darker, almost has a brownish tinge to it. And that's what I picked out for blood red. To me, that is not cherry red, so that's why I went with that one. Blood red to me is a little bit darker. So again, that's just my thoughts. Then we have geranium, which is just a tad darker than the blood red. Okay, a little bit of a deeper colored cap. Now, again, I do have this all typed up, so if anybody wants a copy of this color chart all typed up, just like all my color charts, just send me an email and I will send this to you. It does take me a while to get through all of my emails and attach these color charts, so please have patience with me. I try to do that all on the weekends while I am over on the laptop. Okay, I'm not always on my laptop. I do a lot of my stuff on my phone and my iPad. So as you can see, geranium is a little bit deeper than the blood red. Again, this is not what we typically think of as geranium, but it is what it is. All right, we have one dark red color, and in my set of markers, I definitely had two dark red colors. So again, this was almost like flipping a coin, because dark Cyclamen is the other dark one. And this one had a little bit of a more pinkish hue to it. So that's why I put it down with the pinks. This one I put down with a dark red. So these two, it may be kind of hard to distinguish. The dark Cyclamen, however, does have more of a, you know, kind of a little bit on the pinker side, purplish side. Whoops, can't hardly see that. So this one that has more of like a brownish tinge to it, rather than this one, is the one that I used for brick red. Okay, let me put this one back. And again, I'm only doing this and going so slow that in case you want to pick out the same markers according to the color caps. So this is what I made brick red. Okay, so that's the end of the reds. And we're 23 minutes in already. I told you this was going to be a long video. All right. But again, there is a method to my madness. All right, then we have pale pink. And I'm going to pull out all three of these light pinks so that you can see the order that I picked them in. We have this very lightest pink. This next color is more of a pinky pink. This next one is just a tad darker of a cap than this first one. So this is the order that I am putting these lightest three colors in. Okay, so this very first one I have as pale pink. Again, these pinks I switched around I don't know how many times. Oh yes, Doing this all took me many hours. It actually took me longer than a day. This is what I came up with for pastel pink. Looks like a pretty pastel pink, doesn't it? And then coral pink. And the only reason I did pick this as coral pink versus the pale pink, to me it did seem to have a little bit of an orange tinge to it, which corresponded with coral pink. All right. Okay. Moving on. The next couple of colors, again, very close in cap color. First one is actually a little bit darker than the next one. Doesn't come out that way because we know by now our budget-friendly markers, the color caps, never clearly represent the actual ink. So this next one, I have this little bit darker of a cap, and this name that they had written down was Rose/Peach. Odd color name, right? But that's what they had. So this is what I got for the rose. It's definitely not peach, but it is kind of a rosy pink. Again, process of elimination, that's what I came up with. So then the next one that's a little bit lighter, and again, this is when I switched around, I don't know how many times, is Salmon. Looks more like a carnation pink, right? It's not a bright pink, so that's what I got as the Salmon pink. Now, Amaranth, you know, a lot of these color names I did research on. And did some lookups, and some of them, oh my gosh, they varied so widely in color. It's like, okay, you're no help at all. These are the next three pinks that I came up with. So we have this one, which is a little bit darker pink than the other three. This one, which almost has almost kind of a magenta color. It's a pink with a bit of purple in it. Then this one that looks pink with a bit of orange or red in it. So these are the next three colors that I picked out. This here, first one being the Amaranth. Amaranth is kind of, when I looked it up, kind of a purpley pink. A pink with, you know, just a little bit of purple to it. That's what I came up with. It's a pretty pink. I like it. Then we have Rosewood. This is what I came up with for, nope, wrong. Whew, that was close. This is what I came up with for Rosewood. Okay, again, when I looked at the color online, this was the closest versus this. This is what kind of corresponded. Again, it was hard, but that's what I came up with. And then we have the Cyclamen. And when I looked these colors up, yeah, this was the one that I found to be closest. Hope I got these in the right order. I think so. Yeah, okay. Okay, then flesh. Oh my gosh. There really was no flesh tone, just like the Ivory. It's like, what the heck do you mean by flesh? Well, again, left that one close to the end, like the Ivory, by process of elimination only. This kind of tannish looking cap one is what I determined to be their flesh color. And it is that one. Again, kind of a tannish color. And yeah, I did have that in the browns when I had it in my order. And then we have the dark Cyclamen. Again, I don't know really how to pronounce that. Cyclamen, whatever. It's this darkish maroon cap. Again, I didn't know truly if this should be brick red, if it should be this and that, or that, but this is what I made dark cyclamen. Again, it had just, I don't know, versus that, it was just a little bit different, so that's what I used down here. All right, we finally go on to the purples. All right, we got through a few groups. I tell you, the blues, and then I think the greens were the hardest. Oh my gosh. It took me forever to determine those. All right, this lightest purple is what I made lavender. Love that color. Then we have lilac and lilac violet. Very, very similar colors. One cap is a little bit lighter than the other. So the lighter one, I made lilac. Okay. And the little bit darker of a cap, I made the lilac violet, or lilac, however you want to pronounce it. Because it had just a little bit more of a purpley or, you know, bluish tinge to it. So, okay, and then we have Orchid Violet. So, yeah, all really, really close. To me, this is more of an orchid color, but in the purple family. So, kind of a pinkish tone to it. This is the one I picked for Orchid Violet. Kind of a mauve-y type of color. And we have Magenta, which, as we know, kind of is a deep pink on the purplish side. So this is the one I picked out for Magenta. Real deep purpley pink kind of color. Okay, then we have bright purple. Now we're moving into the true purples. And for bright purple, I picked this one. And that's this color. That one really made sense to me. Finally, one that made sense. And then we have Mead Purple. And when I looked this one up online, this is the one that kind of made sense versus the next one. Now, again, these two caps are very, very similar. The Mead Purple is just a hint lighter than the light violet, if that helps you kind of pick out which one is which. So Mead Violet is the little bit lighter of the cap. Okay, so I have that one for Mead Violet, and then the little bit darker capped one I have for light violet. But very, very close in color, aren't they? This one maybe has a little bit darker undertone to it, but yeah, really hard to distinguish those two. Okay, we're going to finally go up to the second column, and we're over half an hour in. Told you it's going to be a long one. We have, I'm going to take another sip here quick. I'm kind of thirsty today. We have Intermediate Violet, and I'm going to pull out the next two again because very similar in color again. We have Intermediate Violet, and boy, I sure hope I didn't mix these up. Intermediate violet, and on camera these look really similar. Oh wow. And then violet is just a tad darker of a cap. Barely, but it is a tad darker. And when you swatch it out, you will see a little bit of difference in the color. So intermediate violet is this one. So when you swatch them, there is a difference in color. So you will, even if you can't determine it by the color of the cap, you'll be able to determine it by the color of the ink inside. So this is the one that I picked out for violet. Okay, so violet, again, the cap wasn't much different than intermediate violet, but the ink itself is quite different. Which will be the case for a lot of these. If you can't tell the difference by the color of the cap, when you swatch them, you'll actually be able to determine it. Other than some of them that are extremely close, like these two yellows, and then these two purples. And if you get them mixed up because they are so close, it's not really going to matter. The other ones are all pretty different, but yeah, this one and these two yellows are real similar. Then we have Grape Violet, and this is the darkest violet that I found, and that would be this one. The cap has just a little bit maybe of a reddish hue to it, just a tinge. And this is what I found to be the Grape Violet. A little bit of a darker tone than this. I wasn't quite sure what order I should put this in. You know, maybe I should move that up. I don't know. Again, does it really matter in the grand scheme of things? No, I get to be too much of a perfectionist with it, and I can drive myself crazy. All right, these are the next three. We're going into the blues. Woohoo! Moving right along. These are the lightest three blues that I came up with. So we have this real light pale blue. Cap almost has a grayish tinge to it, just a tad. Then this one's a little bit brighter. Then we have this next one, has a little bit of a greenish tinge to it. Okay, so this really light one I have as Pastel Light Blue. And again, boy, I went back and forth with these. So, Pastel Light Blue. Then we have Light Sky Blue. Okay, and finally, we have Light Turquoise. Because it does have that, like I said, little bit of a greenish tinge to it. Then we have Light Blue. Let me get that in there. A little bit of a darker cap than the others. But I thought it kind of went with the Light Sky Blue. Then we have a greenish blue, and it's turquoise. Again, really had to go through a process of elimination and switch these around a ton. This one I have down as turquoise. To me, that's more of an aqua than a turquoise, but it's where I fit it in anyhow. These next two are very, very similar in color, again, between sky blue and manganese blue. Manganese is a little bit of a darker cap. Again, looking it up, this is the one that I came out with being the closest. So, Here we go with the sky blue. And again, I thought this kind of corresponded with a deeper shade of the light sky blue. Okay, so we just have a deeper tone of that. Then we have the manganese light blue and manganese blue. So I wanted to pick two colors that were kind of in the same tones, but one being lighter and one being darker. So these are the two that I came up with. Again, this one being a darker cap. So this is the one I came up with for light or manganese light blue, kind of a cornflower blue. And then again, this is the one that I came up with as manganese blue. Little bit darker than that, but kind of not exactly in the same color family, I realize, but yeah, process of elimination. I keep saying that, right? Old blue. In looking that one up, kind of came up with this one. Again, has kind of a grayish undertone to it. Jenny, if you're watching this, you're probably cringing thinking, I didn't come up with that, or oh my gosh, why did you pick that one? So like I said, I'm going to be real curious as to what you came up with. So this one I came up as old blue. Now DM blue, looked that one up everywhere. There is no such thing. The only thing I found is people were talking about their instant messages and why their messages are coming up in blue. And that was what DM stood for. So there was no color DM blue that I could find anywhere. So again, left that one for the last. And which one didn't fit in any of these other ones? That's what I made DM blue. Actually, it was kind of nice having a spare one that made no sense whatsoever, and I could just make whatever color was left over. So that's this brighter, kind of a aqua-ish colored blue. And that is DM blue. Now, maybe this one could have been the turquoise. Now that I'm looking at it, I don't know, because this one has more of the greenish tone to it, and that's kind of why I went with it. I don't know. Now that I'm looking at it and thinking of it. Well, like I said, at the end of the day, doesn't really matter, because if you're coloring something and you want this color, it doesn't matter whether the name over here says turquoise or it says DM blue. You're just going to look for number 48, right? Oh, leave it alone, Lisa. Leave it alone. All right. Now the next one, and this is very similar in cap color to the DM blue, but again, just a shade darker. Very hard to distinguish by the caps. But the color is a little different. So again, this may take you a while to go through and match yours up. But Oriental blue is definitely a deeper color than the DM blue. I am killing my fingernail by putting these in and taking them out. Oh, killing my pretty nails. Oh, well. I'll sacrifice it for you guys. You're worth it. It's only a nail wrap. All right, then we have blue and Prussian blue. Again, caps are very similar in color, but the Prussian blue is a little bit darker. Okay. Now again, blue being blue, I wanted to pick the closest to a pure blue out of all of these markers, and this is the one that I came up with. And I toyed back and forth between the blue and what I'm putting down as Prussian blue. That's the one I'm going with. Little bit darker cap then I am using as Prussian Blue, because it has a little bit of a purpley undertone to it versus this one, and that's why I did what I did. Phew! Almost done with the blues. We have Standa Blue. Yeah, looked that one up. Could not find it anywhere. Nowhere. So that was another one I could just, at least I think it was this one from what I remember. This was another color. Left it for last. Just could throw in one that I had left over that didn't fit in any of the others. So it's this real kind of aqua-ish colored one. And it's just a real deep, like a teal color. It's a beautiful color. Oh. And then we have the deeper blue. Kind of has a little bit of a gray undertone to it. This is what I used for Steel Blue. A little similar to the Standa, but it is a tad darker. And then dark blue and navy blue, our last two. Went back and forth on these two. Dark blue, I used, these are again very similar, but the dark blue has a little bit of a purplish undertone to the cap. And then the navy blue is the darkest blue out of all the caps, the blue caps. So this one I picked as a dark blue. Because to me, navy blue has just a little bit of like a grayish, greenish undertone. At least to me, it does. Which, you know, that one really, you know. But that one definitely did not look like a navy blue to me. So that's why I picked what I picked. We are done with the blues. Let's go on to these greens. Yeah, these are the ones, boy, oh boy, oh boy, these took me forever. This very, very light capped one, very easy to distinguish, very different than the other caps. I put as pale green. And then we have pastel green. Now this one could have been pastel too instead of pale, but that's what I went with. The next lightest green is this color. And again, I made this one pastel green. Let's move you up a teens. Okay, now again, that could be mint green. I don't know. We do have a mint green, which is a shade darker than the cap for the pastel green. And it is a shade darker than the pastel green. Aren't these two pretty together though? Oh, love that. Beautiful color combo. Then, little bit different than the previous cap is this one. Let me show you the two of them together so you can maybe distinguish them a little bit easier. A little bit more on the bluer tone, a little bit on the greener tone. Okay, so the bluer toned one is what I put as mint green. This is the one that I'm using for aqua green. And again, very similar to the mint green, but just a tad darker. Then we have Laurel Green. And looking up Laurel Green, and again, process of elimination, this is the one that I'm using for Laurel Green. And the cap is just a tad darker than the previous two. Okay, so this is what I used for Laurel Green. Again, just a shade darker. So these all kind of go together in the same color family, but they're each just a little bit darker than the other. All right, let's go on to the bright springy type of greens. So we have bright green. This is the lightest of the yellow greens, kind of a chartreuse version. So this is what I have as bright green. Again, I toyed back and forth between the bright green and the fluorescent green. What would be what? You may want to switch them around if you wish. These next few caps are all very similar. I'm going to pull them out all at once, but I want to make sure I'm not going to mix them up. See, I should have numbered these before I did this video, now that I think about it. All right, so we have this one. We have this one that looks more on the yellowish side, and then we have this one, which is a shade darker than this. Okay, so I have this one as fluorescent green, this one as light green, and this one as grass green. Now it could have been lawn green, it could have been leaf green. To me, those names all kind of mean the same. So this is the one that I picked for fluorescent. It's not really fluorescent, it could have been this one. But yet I wanted this more to be the bright green, I guess. To me, bright made more sense to be on the yellow side. I don't know. All right, then we had light green. Excuse me. Darker version of the bright green. You know, these are so open to interpretation. And then this one I picked for grass green. All right, now this next one, the cap is very similar to the previous one. And let me show you that one again. This is the one that I had for grass green. This is the one that I had have for lawn green, and the cap is just a tad darker. Again, these definitely could be interchangeable. They all kind of have to do with grasses, right? Lawn green. Again, just a little bit darker. And then we go on to leaf green. This one was another hard one. I picked this darker yellow green because I thought, well, leaf green could be greens. It could be, you know, a green with a brown undertone. It, you know, could be pretty much anything. Again, very open to interpretation. All right, so that's the one I made leaf green. Then this cap is actually lighter than the previous ones, but this is what I made olive green. Again, just process of elimination. And this probably should be switched around now that I see that. Oh well, I am just leaving well enough alone. And then seaweed green. Now this could have been either olive green or seaweed green. These could be switched around again. Those names mean very similar things to me. Seaweed green, I don't know. I guess I thought of that one. There's a little bit more of a green undertone. I mean a yellow undertone to this one. So this one I thought of more as olive green. And then seaweed green. Again, this is an olive green, but yeah, it is what it is. Now, when I looked up Ming green, this is the color that I found online for Ming green. It is just a deeper version of kind of a mint green, or it's very similar to a sage. You can kind of see more of a gray undertone, kind of a grayish blue undertone than these up here. Again, very close to the sage green, which we will be swatching next. Now the caps themselves are very different. I'm having a heck of a time getting these back in these loops. This is what I picked for sage green. Again, the cap is very different than the Ming green, but the color themselves are quite similar. So that's what I came up with for the sage green. All right, I'm moving to the next section in my coloring, my what's the word I'm trying, my case here. And we get to go into the second page. Woohoo! I hope you guys aren't totally bored and that you find this kind of interesting. We go on to Pea Green. This is what I came up with for Pea Green, as opposed to the green. Now this cap, wait a minute. No, that is not right. I'm on the wrong side. I'm like, that is definitely not green. We are over here. This is what I came up with for pea green. Definitely does not look like a pea green versus the green. And this cap is a little bit darker. Okay, so pea green, I think this is right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, this just does not. No, this ain't right. I missed the last one. I didn't think this looked right. Okay, this one is the pea green. Because, yeah, that definitely wasn't right. This is what I picked for pea green. Again, kind of on the olive side. Pardon my arm. Okay, then, I hope I put these back in the correct order. Let me swatch them down here and just make sure. Okay. All right, then we have the next two. We have green and we have bean green. And the green cap is a little bit lighter than the bean green. So these colors are almost identical. Again, green, I wanted to find the purest green tone that I could. This is the one that I came up with. Then bean green, yeah, pretty much the exact same color. Very, very hard to distinguish between those two. This maybe is a tad darker. I don't know. But yeah, pretty much identical. Then we have the next one, which is Oriental Green. Just a tad darker of a cap. And this is what that one looks like. So again, a little bit on the olive side of a green. Couple more greens and we're done. Then we have Jade Green, and we are kind of all familiar with a Jade Green. Again, by process of elimination, this is what I came up with. Kind of a little bit of a deeper green. Then we have dark green, or deep green and dark green. Well, this was a toss-up. It's like, what do you pick for what? I switched these around a number of times. They're pretty much identical in caps. You know, it's almost impossible to tell the difference in these caps. But color-wise, this is what I made for the deep green. And then this is the one that I made for the dark green. So even if you can't tell the difference in the cap colors, there is a little bit of a difference to the color itself. Yeah, and again, if you want to mix, you know, change these around, go for it. It was just kind of a flip of the coin. Let's get into the browns. Okay, we have a number of browns, and that's another reason we love our Crayola Supertips is, yeah, I mean, such a diverse range, and we have so many nice browns. First of all, we have Hazelnut. This is what I picked out for Hazelnut. Okay, versus light brown. Now again, these could possibly be interchangeable. This cap's quite a bit different than the hazelnut. So this is what I picked out for light brown. I thought maybe hazelnut had a little bit of a reddish undertone to it, so that's why I went with those choices. Then we have olive brown. This one was kind of a no-brainer for me. This one definitely is a brown with a green undertone to it. So, olive brown. See, that one was pretty much a no-brainer, right? Phew, that was nice. Finally got an easy one. The medium brown, burnt brown, I thought would have like a reddish tinge undertone to it. And then TDM brown, yeah, that's another one I just left open. Whatever I had left, that's what became TDM brown. Now, this one and this one, the cap colors are very, very similar. Very hard to distinguish. But again, the ink that comes out is different. So, this is the one that I picked out for medium brown. So it's a little different than the light brown, kind of on a different brown spectrum, but then the burnt brown, again, I kind of thought would maybe have a reddish undertone to it, shade darker than the hazelnut. And then the TDM brown, and this is the difference you can kind of make between the two caps that look real similar, is the TDM is just a shade darker than the medium brown, if you can see that. Then we have brown. Again, I wanted to make this the purest color that I could find out of all of the markers so that it was kind of a true brown. And that would be this one versus what I made the sepia tone. And then versus the dark brown. That is the darkest brown cap. Okay, so this is the one I made brown. Again, these next two caps, very hard to distinguish, but the colors are a little different. So we have we have brown, and then we have the sepia. So the sepia, you can see, is definitely different than the brown, but the caps are almost identical. So, and then finally, last but not least, is our dark brown, and it very similar to sepia. If you look at these, yeah, very, very similar. But yet the cap was the darkest, so yep, that's what I went with. All right, we are on to the grays. We're on the home stretch now, folks. Take another sip. All right, we have green gray. This one was a little self-explanatory too. It is a gray with that green undertone. And this is the cap of that one. Versus the next one, which is light gray. You can see the difference here. Okay, there is a green kind of undertone to the cap color of this one. Kind of hard to see on camera, but in person it does. So this I picked out as the light gray. It is the lightest cap out of all the grays. But I did make it the second one. I kind of wanted the gray green kind of on its own. And when you see it next to the next color, the light gray, you can definitely see the green undertone to it now, right? All right, this was another no-brainer, the silver, because we have the metallic looking cap. So this is definitely the silver. Yeah, so just look for the metallic looking cap. That's the silver. Very pretty gray. So the light gray is kind of on the warm side, and then silver is on the cool side. Then we have pearl gray. Pearl gray to me sounded like it was another cool type of color. I'm going to pull the next two out because, again, caps are very, very similar. This is what I'm making, pearl gray, and then this cap's a little bit darker, and I am making that one gray. Okay, so we have pearl gray. Not exactly on the cool side. It does have warm undertones, I guess. I was thinking I made that more of a cool gray, but I guess I didn't. And then regular gray. Again, with the regular name, I wanted to try to get this the truest color. But as far as grays, it's like, gray is a gray, right? That's what I came up with. All right, then we have gray blue. To me, this was kind of another no-brainer. I did originally have this with the blue markers, but again, process of elimination, it ended up in the grays. So this is what I made, gray blue. Because it did, and it does, it does have gray undertones to it, so. Okay, then we have light blue gray. This one kind of, to me, was another sort of no-brainer because it definitely has some blue undertones in the cap. And the undertone in the color is on the cool side, on the bluish side. So then we have this one, definitely on the warm side. You can definitely see like the greenish browns in it. And this is what I made, medium gray. Now these next few, you could have tossed the markers in the air and said, okay, that one's going to be that one's going to be that, and that one's going to be that. So, yeah, very interchangeable names. But that's what I use for medium gray. Yeah, okay. I am going to the last sleeve in my marker case. All right, the next one, color is very, very similar, but again has a very green undertone to it. And I made this one ash gray. So again, really goes along with the gray-green, but darker. So, yeah, made that one ash gray. Don't ask me why, but I did. Next two, very similar cap cover colors, silver gray and asphalt gray. I just looked at asphalt gray as being a much darker color, So this cap is lighter than this one. So this one I made a silver gray. And then the cap that is a little bit darker, I made asphalt gray. We're getting to the deep, deep grays now. Asphalt gray kind of has a brown undertone to it. And then these last three caps are so similar, but the black you can pretty much pick out. Okay. This one I picked as dark gray. This one I picked out as deep gray. The cap is just a smidge darker than this one. And then this one is the black. And on camera they look almost identical, but the black is truly a little bit darker than these two. But these three are so similar. This one is what I made dark gray. Now, what's the difference between dark gray and deep gray? I don't know. Just like dark green and deep green. Okay, that's what I made dark gray. Again, you could just toss them in the air and pick them out. And then this one is what I made deep gray. As you can see, it is just a smidgen darker, but almost identical. So I don't think it really matters which one you pick for what. Now, black, to me, this is definitely not a true black. It is a darker gray. Definitely not real black. These three are pretty much identical, aren't they? Yeah. You can't tell the difference too much between those three at all. To the naked eye, they're identical. So, but that's what I came up with. So there you go. Almost, how long? Because I split this up. I paused. Well, it's under an hour, but probably close to it. All right, so that is what I came up with. These are the colors. Let me zoom back out. Again, these are the colors that I came up with. Let me zoom out just a tad more. I don't know if you want to take a screenshot of these. Yeah. Very open to interpretation, like I said. But if you just want to get some color names down on paper and correspond them with the marker, just so you have a color chart to refer to, you know, you can do this. And then here are the rest of them. Again, if you want to do a snapshot of this page. I hope this has helped you if you want to get your Crayola Supertips in some semblance of order. And then again, I'm just going to number mine 1 through 100 and not put the color names on here. That I think would be more of a pain in the butt than anything. I did do that with my Sharpies, and I really like how it looks. But yeah, it's really a pain when that particular Sharpie runs out. These, you know, when it runs out, you have to get a whole new set, where at least you can get replacement Sharpies and replacement Bics. And Bics, I mean, they're so smart. They put the color names on their markers. Like I said, the rest of these guys got to get with the program. All right, so that is that. I, again, hope you found this helpful. I hope it wasn't too terribly slow. I realize I went through this extremely slow and in detail. But again, for those of you who wanted to follow along, swatch out your Crayola Supertips along with me and try to get them in the same order with the color names. Now, if we prefer to have this chart first before you go through this video, if that would help you. Again, go ahead and send me an email, print out this color chart, then watch this video. Well, I guess you can't. I say it at the end of the video. Okay, you'll have to watch it again. Just fast forward through it the first time. But yeah, you know, if that would help you, rather than jotting the color names down yourself, yeah, just feel free to email me and I'll forward this chart to you. But yeah, if you found this helpful to you and this video interesting, please hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if you're new to my channel. I hope everybody's having a fantastic day, and as always, happy coloring. Bye guys.